Hello, welcome. I'm Nomfanelo Malloy, and welcome to the top 40 movie soundtracks. This here is part three of this installment. So, if you missed the part one and two, those are already out. So, here I'll be talking entries from 20 to 11. So, let's get to it. Number 20, The Bourne Supremacy by John Powell. So, this movie was sort of my introduction to the Jason Bourne franchise from my best recollection. Because I remember at the time, I think the movie came out, I was in middle school. I don't remember which grade, but I think it was grade seven or so. But it doesn't matter. But I remember watching this movie for the first time in French class with the subtitles was an interesting experience. But the movie really drew like kind of drew me in and all that stuff. Wanted to learn more. Eventually, I saw it in English in the original language, and I really dug the movie. And also too, I really dug the first three movies of this franchise. The other two were a mixed bag. I think at some point I would love to talk about the Jason Bourne franchise for a movies I love video at some point. So I'll probably do that, and I'll save my thoughts for that video. But with the soundtrack itself, I really dug. Yeah, I'm kind of a fan, of like the orchestra and the symphony type music. Loved, like it could be intense, like when it needs to be, particularly during like the chase sequences, but also to be very like reserved, emotional, particularly like after Marie's death, and like when Jason visits the victim's daughter, like later in the movie. So, and also too, I liked Moby's song "Extreme Ways." In a way, it's like the theme song for the franchise. So that one is always fun to listen to. So I recommend, like check out this album if you haven't already. Number 19, Desperado by various artists. So this Desperado is like the second installment of the Mexico trilogy by Robert Rodriguez. And like the movie itself is fun. Yeah, with Antonio Banderas taking over as the lead character. Um, So as a side note, there's gonna be a reissue of those movies. I believe Arrow is gonna be distributing that both in 4K and Blu-ray format. So pre-order those if you guys are interested. But back to this album. But I loved how it has has a lot of Spanish Latin influence that's infused with rock music. I believe Los Lobos was in charge of the music, but also there were some features with some artists such as Carlos Santana and Tito and Tarantula. And for me, of course, the song Antonio Banderas sings during opening credits, Canción del Mariachi, if I'm pronouncing that right. That one's always fun to listen to. And of course, like with the opening sequence, of course, that's always fun to watch, particularly when he saves the girl during that moment in the opening credits. But check out Desperado if you have not already. Number 18, The Long Kiss Goodnight by various artists. So I talked about this movie in a rediscovered movies episode if you want to know my thoughts on the movie. But in terms of the album itself, loved the mix of the the soul R&B sound, like more of like the classic vibes of that one from like Marvin Gaye, for example, and Muddy Waters. And also too, like we had Santana in the mix as where too, and then had some kind of new-ish songs. I guess at the time you had the F and T by Sammy Sonic, which started from this movie, not from the 10 Things I Hate About You. And then also too, you have "Woman" by Nene Cherry. That one was also fun too. That's during the end credits, and of course the score by Alan Silvestri. So yeah, and I would say he's one of my favorite composers as well too. So that one, yeah, was so the album, of course, is fantastic with this one. Number 17, Sicario by Johan Johansson. So, first and foremost, rest in peace to the composer. It's just unfortunate that he passed away some time ago. But I have not had the chance to dive into his discography that much. But I remember, yeah, with this album, I guess it was my introduction to Johan Johansson, and yeah, like he did a great job, just establishing that very scary tone with the use of the different instruments that was used. The Beast, I believe that track, which is used when the group is on heading on the border, like heading into Mexico. Yeah, that is like quite intense, and in a way, kind of acts as like the unofficial theme song to both this one and the sequel. The sequel itself was okay, but obviously, like the first movie is fantastic and all that stuff. So yeah, like with Johan Johansson, what he did here, and like also to collaborating with Denis Villeneuve, like it's obviously fantastic with what they did here. It may not be as replayable as most entries on the list, but certainly, stands out, and it does what it needs to do, like depending on the mood that you're in. So that's why I put Sicario for me like in the top 20.
Keeps raining all the time.
Number 16, Stormy Weather by various artists. So yeah, I talked about this movie in the movies. I love video, which you could check out. But yeah, like it really does represent the music, I guess, at the time. And if you listen to the album itself, like you can really tell, like just based off the recording of the year and all that stuff. But yeah, like it's like very classic Lena Horne, Cap Calloway, and Bill Bojangles, like with the songs they've contributed to this. And I would say "Stormy Weather," the titular song by Lena Horne, like for me just stands out. And in the film too, like how that's shot with her singing and then with the dancers in the background is fantastic. So yeah, check that one out. Number 15, Breakin' by various artists. So yeah, this is a fun hip hop album from the 80s. Like this one is very upbeat, and this one came out the same year as another entry that I will get into a bit later in the video. But I guess it kind of represents the music at that time, because this movie is very West Coast, has it set in California and all that stuff. And like I would say the cast did a great job and all that stuff. And yeah, RIP to Ozone. But um but yeah, it just one's like a fun movie. And I would say songs such as like "Ain't Nobody" and "There's No Stopping Us," so those ones are great. So Yeah, this one will certainly put you in a cheerful mood, I say.
There's something inside you.
Number 14, Drive by Cliff Martinez. So I talked about this movie in a Rediscovered Movies episode you could check out. But loved, yeah, this here has a very dark, like EDM feel to it with the score. But also too, we have like the songs as well too. The ones that stood out to me is "A Real Hero," which is played when Ryan Gosling, Carey Mulligan are taking a drive throughout Los Angeles during the daytime, and of course "Night Call," which is played during the opening credits. But yeah, like I love this movie. The album itself is great. So I would say like I like the songs more than the score itself because I guess for me I would have to be in a certain mood to really enjoy it, but otherwise it's worthwhile. Number 13, The Lion King by various artists. So, yeah, this is a classic movie that I remember watching a lot growing up. I feel like from my recollection is the first movie that I ever saw in theaters. But yeah, like I still enjoy it to this day. Like obviously it has like a very like African influence because yeah, collaborative artists such as Lebo M and multiple songs such as Circle of Life, and loved how like it made the African language like catchy and easily pronounceable, like especially with Hakuna Matata. That's a very catchy song. Hans Zimmer did a great job with the score, and of course Elton John, Tim Rice did a great job with the songs they did. Like "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Is nice, like romantic song. And I don't really have much to add, but like The Lion King, yeah, is a blast. You could say very show tune since it became Broadway musical, and of course it's been reinterpreted like throughout the years, like recently with the Disney live action remake. And I really dug, yeah, the Beyonce album she did. I think was for Black is King, if I remember that right. I can't remember, or it might be for both that and the 2019 song. But yeah, regardless, it's fantastic. And yeah, check out this album. Number 12, Goldfinger by John Barry. So I'm a big 007 fan. And for me, it was a bit tricky at first to choose which James Bond album to put on the list. But for me, ultimately, I always go back to Goldfinger because for me, it represents like the classic, Bond music, because John Barry, like throughout his contributions throughout the franchise, in my opinion, were fantastic, particularly with the early stuff like Goldfinger with this one. And yeah, I loved the orchestra music is great, and of course Shirley Bassey singing the titular theme song, of course, is great. So yeah, I really dug this one. And for me, I always kind of hate that there are at times it'll be available in streaming, and at other times it won't be. So yeah, I do hope it does become available on streaming. Like you can listen to it on YouTube, but yeah, like with streaming, it's tough. It's tough. Number 11, Beach Street by various artists. So this movie came out the same year as Break In, which I did talk about briefly earlier. And yeah, like the film is a classic. I talked about it in an episode of Rediscovered Movies. But yeah, it's a classic. It clearly represented the music at the time from the East Coast, and loved, yeah, like it included, I'm sure, artists that were popular at the time, but also too artists that were not well known. Tracks for me that stood out, of course, the titular song that's played closer to the end of the movie. During that whole celebration sequence. The Christmas rap, obviously, which is quite hilarious, but also too like it could be included as a staple for Christmas music. And then also to Us Girls, that one's always catchy, and I really dug that one. So yeah, please check out the movie if you haven't already. And also too, I learned recently apparently it's going to be turned to a Broadway musical. I know Nas is involved with that one, so hopefully that comes into fruition. So we'll have to wait and see. So that pretty much concludes part three of this installment. So next one, the final one, part four, which I'll be talking about entries from 10 to number one. So you could check out the albums I've talked about in the description that are available on YouTube or YouTube Music. Link to my socials are in the description. Also, too, you could support me on Buy Me a Coffee, all that in the description. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in part four.